Now, it's been a fantastic weekend of Premier League football. It really, really has. Yesterday's game between Manchester City and Liverpool at Anfield was a really remarkable game. A game that will live in the memory for a long time because of the brilliance of the goals and, of course, because you'd feel that when the game opened up and the really top players got involved, that you won't see many better football games or 45 minutes of a football game than we saw yesterday. I'm joined now by John Giles to discuss it. John, we start with Anfield yesterday. It was at times, the first half, obviously City controlled the football and the tempo, and it suited them. And really, Phil Foden had a chance, which Alisson saved, but after 45 minutes, City were in complete command.
Oh, yeah, they started very, very well, Eamon. But didn't get the goals at a time when you're controlling the game.
Yes,
Eamon, which is a very, very serious situation.
Yep.
But they did have possession of the ball. They had a couple of chances, and again, if you don't take advantage of them, Eamon, when you're on top, then somewhere along the line, it's going to cost you.
Yes, and Liverpool throughout that 45 minutes looked lethargic and looked a bit heavy-legged. They weren't getting close. Like people like Henderson, for example, who'd be close, biting tackles, the kind of thing you'd expect from him. It wasn't there. So City, either they made it look as if they'd loads of space, or Liverpool were contributing that by failing to be sharp and get a foot in.
I think it's more City, Eamon.
Yes.
Doing what they do. We've seen them do it with other teams, not so much with Liverpool, because Liverpool's such a good side. But they can do that, and I think
they did it to Chelsea, John, a week ago.
Yeah. So they can do it, but didn't have the end product. But I don't think it's. I think if you're going to be tired, you're going to be more tired in the second half.
Yes.
Than the first half.
Yes.
And Liverpool didn't look tired in the second half,
No.
Because they got a grip of the game and they got the goals, of course. So I think it's the way City play when they're playing well, that they make it look like that to teams.
Yeah.
But Liverpool got a grip of it then, in the second half.
Yeah, I want to stick with City for a moment, because you and I both felt, and we said it on this podcast because that's what we do, I think we both felt that in the opening weeks of the season, City had gone a bit. They weren't going to be a real force. And I think that's what we felt. We've been proved wrong. But something has happened, John, and it backs up something you said for quite some time. On the bench at Anfield yesterday, he had Zinchenko, who's a player you never liked, Gundogan, who's a player you never liked, Fernandinho, who was a really good player but is way past his best now, Raheem Sterling, who's a player we've had doubts about, and Riyad Mahrez. So there's about 5 players that were regulars in the team, John, benched.
Yeah.
And instead of them, he's got Rodri, who I don't think either of us are mad about, but Bernardo Silva, who I know you thought at Chelsea and yesterday was amazing. De Bruyne, who had another poor game yesterday despite getting the equalising goal. Cancelo, and Kyle Walker doesn't go forward anymore. Johnny plays as a fullback. He very rarely ventures forward the way he used to do. So Pep has made some changes. He's also, yesterday, he started Grealish as a kind of deep-lying centre forward, a false 10, they call it. But he has made changes to bring about this improvement.
Well, he has, Eamon, definitely. I think it's more attitude that he's got back into the side, Eamon. You mentioned we both mentioned last week against Chelsea, where they were hounding them down.
Yes.
That hadn't been there for a while.
No, that's right.
So what he's got that going again, which was a hugely important part of his success.
Yes.
And it gives them a shake. I think also with the two fullback, as you say, they had them sort of playing towards the centre halves there for a while.
Yes.
But I think they're two regular fullbacks now who are good players who defend. Well. De Bruyne wasn't good yesterday. I didn't think.
No, he was hopeless.
Well, first of all, Grealish. I don't know. whether Grealish knew where he was supposed to be playing.
Yeah.
But I think what he did, I think he put Foden on the left wing to have a go
at James Milner.
Yeah, I think he was doing that. Now, and it worked, yeah. Now, to get to Grealish, I was disappointed in Grealish because I wasn't playing in his regular position, Eamon, but he wasn't dashing around and getting after the players like you'd expect City to do.
Yes.
It was as if, well, I'm not playing in my right position, so therefore I'm going to stroll around. So he wasn't, I didn't think he played well at all, yes. I didn't try hard, like what you expect.
He was anonymous, John. You wouldn't know he was on the pitch.
No, he wasn't good, and I thought De Bruyne was erratic. Now, De Bruyne, as we know, can be brilliant, Damon, and he can deliver great passes. He wasn't doing that yesterday.
No.
But I think when we saw them against Chelsea a couple of weeks ago, Eamon, this was the Man City that has been successful over the last few years. And 50% of their game was getting back at the opposition. Maybe more than 50% of the game, putting them under pressure, as Big Jack used to say. Yeah. And they were doing that really well. They did that well against Chelsea. I think they didn't do it quite as well yesterday.
No, they weren't able to, John. They trapped Chelsea in their own half, and Chelsea tried to play short passes to get out, and City kept banging them. But Liverpool are different. They have Van Dijk, Robertson, Henderson at times. They can play a long ball up, and they can play it back to front real quick and hurt you as Salah and Mane, as we know from Salah and Mane. So they didn't press Liverpool the way they pressed Chelsea, not so close to their own goal.
No, they might have tried to, Eamon, but they weren't as successful.
Yeah. Because
they were playing against better players and better team. I think they tried to do it, but Liverpool picked it up in the second half and did it extremely well. It was very hard to do it. But I mean, the way it panned out, you could say, well, I think a draw was a fair result in the long run.
Yeah.
Because City have things that Liverpool don't have in keeping possession of the ball and having a Bernardo Silva, for example. And certainly Liverpool have things that City don't have. And that's the three forwards, the two particularly, and the Jota as well. City don't have, you look at City yesterday, Eamon, apart from Foden playing on the left, they didn't have the cutting edge.
Jesus delivered the pass for Foden's goal, the first goal, which is very important, but it wasn't a killer pass. Foden still had an awful lot to do.
Yes.
And he was able to go at James Milner. And now we both, and everyone in the game, has great respect for James Milner. He's a fantastic professional. He can play almost anywhere. But you'd have to say Trent Alexander-Arnold's attacking flair was missed yesterday, and James wasn't able for Foden. He was lucky to stay on the pitch, John. I thought he got a yellow card in the first half, and I thought he committed another offence worthy of a yellow card in the second half, and he didn't get the yellow card. So I think that was a legitimate claim City had.
Oh yeah, it was nailed on. I mean, I say Milner's a great lad. He's been, I think the two of us, I've loved him over the years. He's a great respect for him. But I think Foden had him going yesterday. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And it should have been sent off at that particular time. But he got away with it.
Now, John,
I think the game ended up well. I think the game ended up as it should have been. I think it was a fair draw from both sides in a terrific match. It really was a terrific game.
Now, John, you've played with and against great players all your career. I want you to talk about Mo Salah and how good he is and how he continues to improve. And yesterday, he set up Mane's first goal on the break, counter-attack really, and for his own goal, which was mesmerising. He had 4 City defenders around him. He wriggled free. Then he had a bit more work to do to get past the last man, and he smashed it in with his right foot to go 2-1 up. That was a big goal at a big moment in the game. How good do you think he is, John, when you rank him? Obviously, we have Messi and Ronaldo and leave them aside, but he's a bloody real good player on the verge of greatness, maybe, in my opinion.
I think he's a great player for Liverpool, Eamon. You know, I mean, you don't have to be Messi and Ronaldo to be great.
No.
Because they're exceptionally great.
Yeah.
No, I think he's up there with the best. But what he can do, he's one of those players, Eamon, who don't need their colleagues as much as some people need their colleagues. In other words, he can do it on his own.
Yeah.
Now, there was a time last year I was doubting him because I thought he was looking to get away.
Yeah.
But he scored his goal. He's come back playing better than ever. But he can do it on his own. This is the difficult thing. It's like Georgie Best at his best.
Yes.
Or any of the great players at their best.
Yeah.
But he can, like Messi, Ronaldo doesn't do it on his own. Amen.
Yeah,
he depends on people around him.
He's a predator, yeah.
And he's great at what he do. Because when you see great players, they all have different qualities. And they have qualities that make them great. I mean, Ronaldo can't do what Salah did, but he can do other things. But Salah can do it on his own.
Yes.
He beats players, he's quick, and he's a great finisher.
He is, yeah.
So that makes him world class. I think he's one of the best players in the world, definitely, and one of the best players I've seen in the world. And he's doing it at the highest level.
Yeah, and there's a warning for Liverpool fans. They've given new contracts to quite a few of their players now. You feel it was rather reluctant, but they've done it. American owners, of course, Fenway Sports Group. He's 29 and he's looking for a new contract. He's woefully underpaid. I believe he's on 150 grand a week or thereabouts. Whereas Pogba, for example, is being offered 400,000 a week and is turning it down. He would be snapped up instantly and his contract runs out in a year's time. They need to sign him, don't they? And get him.
Well, it's madness aiming to pursue a policy like that. Do you know what I mean? Like if you get somebody that's working for you, and he's working for Liverpool, doing it, and he's underpaid, that can't be right. Do you know? I mean, and there's a lot of players overpaid, as we know, like to get a big contract and then stop playing.
Yes.
But in Salah's case, I mean, he's been there for a few years, Eamon.
Yeah.
And he's doing it as well now as ever before.
Yeah.
I mean, what could happen to him, and if he has an agent, which I'm sure he has, when his contract runs out, I think probably next year, is it?
Yeah.
You know, they could say, he said, I'm not signing a new contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they lose a player. That's unbelievably good for them and valuable to them, but for the sake of being mean themselves.
Jurgen Klopp would have to really sit down and reflect, wouldn't he, if they didn't give him the contract he deserves?
Well, he's had a little experience of it now with Henderson.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Henderson, they was in the paper there fairly recently. They weren't going to renew his contract.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Klopp has come in, and I think they have renewed it now because he was 30 or 31, some nonsense like that. I mean, for what Salah has already done for the club and can continue to do, it's just madness. It's not right anyway. And Klopp has to get a grip on that, Eamon. He really does. I wouldn't be surprised if he walked away if and when it doesn't happen the way it should happen.
Right. I just say to you, John, even at the level I played at, or in any job, they never pay you for what you did.
No,
they don't give a monkeys about what you did.
No, what's
That's
gone
in
is
the
gone.
bank.
I mean, football is a cruel game. I can understand it, Eamon, if they do the right thing while the player is doing it.
Yeah, when they do the right thing, they won't be called Fenway Sports. They'll pay him for what they'll get out of him in the future and how he adds a dimension to the Liverpool team that's irreplaceable.
Definitely.
And I just want to, before we leave Liverpool City, a couple of points I'd like to make about City, John. Everyone is raving about them. They went to PSG and they lost. Now they played okay, but they didn't play anything like they played at Chelsea. They were superb, John. I think we both agreed it was one of the most stunning performances I've seen from any team, ever. Jesus, Grealish, Rodri, De Bruyne. They were all in the team yesterday. I'd have a doubt if they can keep up the standard that they've set for themselves. We're only 7 games into the season. On the other hand, Bernardo Silva was on the way out at Manchester City. He's a brilliant player. He's back in the team yesterday. He actually reminded me of David Silva in the last 3 games. He's played really, really well. So there's something sort of odd going on there. I don't know. If they can keep this up.
I think there's always something odd going on clubs, Eamon, you know.
Yeah.
And Sterling is the biggest odd situation. I mean, he played on yesterday. He made a bit of a difference yesterday, actually, when he did come on. But But he's been left out of the team since nearly last Christmas. Then he goes with the England squad and is one of the players of the tournament.
Yes.
So you wouldn't know what's going on there, to be quite honest. I mean, but I think City, in what they've shown in the last few weeks, they can play better. But I think they've got their pressing game going again.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was a good game yesterday. If they'd had a finish yesterday, it could have been over in the first half. They didn't. But anyway, I think they'll have enough to be up there, particularly if they keep their attitude when they don't have the ball, as they did against Chelsea.
Yep.
If they keep that week in and week out, they will take a bit of beating. That's even without having a proper striker.
Yeah, okay. Just a warning also to Liverpool fans. Fabinho needs to kick up the backside, John. When he first went into midfield, he was a great addition, but he looks slow and out of touch this season, as opposed to Curtis Jones, who looks like a very good player. But Fabinho was important in midfield, and he didn't do his stuff in recent weeks. I better move on, but I want to ask you about Roger Hunt, who died last week. Roger Hunt was 83. He scored more goals than any other Liverpool player. He was in the great Shankly teams. And of course, he played in 1966. He started in the England team that Alf Ramsey led to win the World Cup. John, you played against him many times and you knew him quite well off the field as well.
Yeah, I met him. Yeah, I played against him quite a bit, Eamon. He was a terrific pro.
Yeah.
Really was. Everything was for the team. He was as honest as his day is long, scored a lot of goals, Eamon. But even after the 66 World Cup, when Jimmy Greaves didn't play in the final games, Roger played in every match.
Yep.
And he never gets a mention.
No.
He never gets a mention in the World Cup. And he scored a few goals in it.
He scored three goals in the tournament, yeah.
He was just one of those players you could depend on for effort. And obviously it wasn't easy on the eye as a player like Jimmy Greaves and some other players, Eamon. But he was so effective. He just got on with the job week in, week out, and was a terrific lad. I met him in the World Cup in 1970. He was over there, and he was with some company that went bust, actually.
Yeah.
Like, this is only 4 years. This is football. This is only 4 years after he was a hero in 1966 for the World Cup.
He's doing PR work for them. Yeah.
Yeah. But a good lad, and a top player. Definitely a top player.
Okay. Please God, he'll rest in peace, and he'll be remembered always, of course, by Liverpool fans. Now, John, we have Everton fans who are getting on at me, and just to assure everyone who's listening, I do read everything that comes in, even if I can't answer everything. I really do. So we don't pay enough attention to Everton. So I want to talk about Manchester United now, because there's certainly something to talk about there. Played Everton on Saturday, and the focus of so many people is on Manchester United and what they do. They're a fabulous club with a great history. And John, of course, played for Manchester United, won a cup winners' medal with Manchester United. But that's not really the point of it. The point of it is the manager or the head coach, whatever his title is, Ole Gunnar Solskjær. I thought, given the injuries Everton had, Rafa Benitez has, for a few weeks now, he's put on a masterclass in coaching. And even on Saturday, they were unlucky not to beat a star-studded Manchester United team. A Manchester United team, John, that had on the bench Ronaldo and Pogba and Lingard and this kid Van de Beek they bought from Ajax, who they paid 40 million for. I don't think he's ever started a Premier League game. And the front three was Cavani, Martial and Mason Greenwood. He really, when I saw the team before the game, I thought, what's he thinking about? Ronaldo on the bench. And after the match, Ronaldo walked off the pitch because he had been brought on, shaking his head as if to indicate to people watching, this is not right, guys. This is a load of bollocks.
Well, it's very hard to understand what Solskjær is doing, Eamon. I mean, he said afterwards that, he made the right decision. And when he's talking about situations like that, it's always we did this and we did this. He's the boss. It's not we. He's done it, you know. And if he's not doing it, he should be doing it. And I think he goes on a wing and a prayer. You know, like as you say, left Ronaldo out. I think Ronaldo can play 2 or 3 matches a week because we've spoken about it before, Eamon. Ronaldo doesn't take an awful lot out of himself when he's playing.
Yep.
He's a great player because of the goals he scores, but he's not a worker. He's not going to challenge people. He's not going to run after people.
No pressing.
That's why no. And he's 36 now, Eamon, and he's as fit as he ever was. He'd play at least 40, unless he gets any injuries, because he's not the type of player that chases after people, closes people down. He just doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So he doesn't take an awful lot out of himself anyway. So if he's playing 2 matches a week, there's no problem to him. That's why I say he was annoyed. I don't think Solskjær would have addressed him and said, look, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, when you put that front three that he put on the pitch together with the midfield, which is McTominay and Fred. Also, I have to say, Varane is a World Cup winner. He was at Real Madrid for a long time, playing really as a second centre-half beside Sergio Ramos, who was a giant. Varane wasn't really someone who'd attack the ball. He looks lightweight, John, in the Premier League, and I always thought he would look lightweight. And, that's a mistake, I think, especially now that Maguire's out. And just let me ask you about Maguire, even though he's not playing. He is the most expensive central defender in the world, apparently. What do you think of him? Because one of our listeners wanted to know if I think the listener had a doubt about Maguire. I'd have a doubt about him at the very highest level too.
No, I like him, Eamon.
Yeah.
I think he's okay. No, I wouldn't have any problems about Maguire at all.
Yeah.
The new lad, I'll wait and see.
Yeah, Varane, yeah.
Varane, he hasn't proved himself to me yet, although he has played in France and played in World Cups and that. But I just hold my judgment on him. But Maguire is okay, but it's difficult when you make as many changes as Solskjær does.
Yeah.
To get a settled team. And
no one knows what his best team is. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, 1 or 2 changes is enough in any team.
Right.
You want to get the consistency that you want, and to get you see, what I find in football, and I don't think Solskjær does it, Eamon. When you play in a match like they did on Saturday, or ones before that, you learn something from every game.
Yeah. And
you put it right and you improve it. If you make changes all the time, you never get an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
You just say, you start a new team, then, like say you've picked the same team for 5 matches running, right? From the first match to the 5th match, you've learned a lot about little things in football. Put that right, put that right, put that right. Yeah. If you change the team all the time, you never get an opportunity to do that. So that leads to inconsistency. And that's what I think happens with Solskjær. I don't think he sees it when things are going wrong. I don't think he sees it, Eamon, at all.
Yeah.
And what the contrast, you mentioned Benitez on Saturday. I thought Everton were really, really, really well organised.
Yeah. And
really organised.
Without Seamus Coleman, without Calvert-Lewin, big players missing from their team. But they were organised and they really could have won the game. Doucouré is a lad who used to play for Watford, a very good midfield player. Yeah. And Damari Gray, who made the goal, he scored a goal at Goodison last week. And Townsend, who scored on Saturday, used to play for Crystal Palace and, of course, has played for England. But he was down 3 or 4 players, Rafa, but still got a tune out of what he had.
He did. Well, he brought Gray in, and who looked a good player at Leicester and went to see him. You got the Alan in the middle of the field as well. Yeah. These are real pros who get the job done. And he had Townsend, I think, at Newcastle. So he knows what he's doing, but you can see by the team, he's the boss. You can see Benitez the boss. Yes. He doesn't stand any messing around. No. Gets on with the job, and he's got these players in midfield. Actually, as you said, they could have won it. Yep. Because the lad that came on made a pass. Young Davis.
Yes, when the guy was offside, he should have took it himself.
He should have took it himself. So they could have won the match. So you'll always get the inconsistency in a team if the manager is not putting it this right, that right. It's made up of a million little things. And when I see Solskjær or watch him or listen to what he's saying, I don't think he does that. He just makes changes, Eamon.
Yeah.
Changes, you don't get a settled team. I know there's a lot of matches and you do have to make a few changes. But I wouldn't have made, I think he made 5 changes the other day from the team. So it's very hard to get a settled team with the consistency that you want. And I think that's what's happening to Man U. I don't think he sees it.
Right. Well, supporters of Solskjær will point out that they are fourth in the Premier League table. They're 1 point behind Manchester City. They're level with Manchester City, 1 point behind Liverpool and 2 points behind Chelsea. They'll also say they got to the final of the Europa League last year and they finished second in the Premier League. But they're only...
Is that good enough for Manchester United, though, Ed?
No, it isn't.
With the players that he has at his disposal. I mean, he's got terrific players there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm only making the case.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, no, if the Glazers wanted to sack him, somebody who was making the case for Solskjær could say that this, and this. They finished second in the Premier League, above... above Liverpool, actually. They got to the final of the Europa League. But I think I totally agree with you. But sometimes it's better to believe your own eyes than statistics. I suppose that's another point. Just before we finish, John, I want to ask you about Chelsea. They beat Southampton, but there were 2 goals in the last 6 minutes, and it wasn't easy for them again. What's going on there? You and I fell in love with them in the first 3 weeks of the season, but they're not quite so fluent now.
No, well, they're not playing as well as they can play, Eamon. And he's making a lot of changes. I think he's got a big squad. And I don't think, to be honest, he's really, he hasn't been there very long, but I don't think he's really come to the conclusion of what is his best team.
No, he has Loftus-Cheek now started. Loftus-Cheek has been around for a long time. He's been out on loan. He was at Fulham last year, I think. He's back. Now he's his first pick. Mason Mount was injured, I think, on Saturday. But they didn't look impressive on Saturday, and they didn't look impressive in midweek either. No,
they haven't played as well as certainly as I was expecting to do, or you to do. But they haven't lost many matches. It can happen. He has a big squad of players, and you can go through spells like that,
yes,
like he's gone through, right, and stay up there. I don't think he becomes a good manager all of a sudden and then becomes a bad manager all of a sudden.
No, of course not.
I think he's there relatively short time, and I think he has shown that he has it. I mean, what he did at the end of last season, as we know. I think they'll come back again.
Right,
Chelsea.
Leeds, your beloved Leeds, John.
Yes.
They finally won a game, 1-0 against Watford. Llorente scored a goal, a centre half, I think. He scored it. He did well, actually. The ball.
Corner. Yeah,
he did well. Did you get a chance to watch it? And is it onwards and upwards?
They have their go back again, Eamon, for this match.
Right.
They won well. They should have won by more, but they were. The opposition wasn't great, but they did do what they've been. I think they will continue doing what he wants to do.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had a bad start to the season, but I think they'll win their fair share of matches as well.
Yeah.
And certainly on the weekend, they definitely deserve to win, and they had their go back again.
Yeah, I don't know if he speaks English or not, but he has the television boys where he wants them. He doesn't understand the questions. And he has a little interpreter beside him who gives the answers, and he looks at the television guys.
He looks at the ground.
Yeah, he looks at the ground.
I think he understands English more than he lets on.
Absolutely.
I think he just doesn't like giving the answers. That's all.
He reminds me of you when you were manager.
They got 3 points anyway. Well,
okay,
it's a good start for them.
Yep, and as I say, a fascinating weekend. I suppose if there's one thing to take out of it, if you're a football fan, never mind a Liverpool fan, they need to pay Mo Salah what he's worth, don't they, John?
Yeah, it shouldn't even be an issue, Eamon.
Right.
A great player, doing great things for them. Give him what he's worth.
Okay,
and let
John,
the manager decide what he wants and what's.
Okay, John Giles, great player, great analyst. We can't afford to give him what he wants, but we do our best. Not what he's worth, brother. We do our best. We're grateful to John, of course.